In the first of the St Lucia Rum deep dive videos, I'm taking on the two white rums, Bounty White and Chairmans Reserve White. I'm going to be doing a little tasting, a little side-by-side tasting. We're going to be doing the mixer experiment. And most importantly for me, I'm going to be doing the daiquiri side-by-side as well. And then I'm going to give you my opinion of which one you should try. Welcome back, rum friends. Here on my blue channel, I mainly focus on rum tastings. I take a different country, a different island each month. We start off with the cheapest rums, work our way through to the more expensive rums, and then I give you my opinions of which rums you should look out for from that country or island. But don't forget, I now have 5 other YouTube channels as well. They will be linked in the description below. They all have their own specific niches. So go and check those out, from cocktails to, you know, British scratch rums to brandy now as well. So all those links will be in the description below. So to start this series off, let's give you a quick overview, a very quick overview of St Lucia rum. Basically, the chances are 99% of the time, if you've ever had a St Lucia rum, it will have come from St Lucia Distillers. They are predominantly the only distillery that sort of exports rum off the island. I don't know too much about St Lucia. There might be other small, like micro distilleries there that kind of might put some rums out there. I don't know about them, but I'm telling you, you know, generally speaking, every St Lucia rum that you've ever tasted will come out of St Lucia Distillers. Doesn't matter if it's one of their 3 brands. You know, they will sell rum off to independent bottlers, but it will always have come from St Lucia Distillers. Now, St Lucia Distillers have 3 different brands. We've got the 2 of them coming out in here. So we've got Bounty, which is predominantly their cheaper rum brand. We've got some Chairmans Reserve, which is kind of their mid-tier and probably their most famous rum brand. But we've also got Admiral Rodney as well. So, you know, how St Lucia Distillers work, they essentially have 4 different stills. They have 3 pot stills, 2 John Doors and a Vendome pot still. And then they also have a column coffee still. And they use all of those different stills to produce their different brands of rum. For instance, the Bounty, there is one exception, but the Bounty is traditionally all column still rum. But then we get onto the Chairmans Reserve, which will be a blend of pot and column stills, or in some cases just totally pot still. So they do that. And then you get up to the Admiral Rodney, and this is where a lot of people get kind of confused as well, because Admiral Rodney is just column still rums. They do not use their pot stills when it comes to the Admiral Rodney. And people, you know, rum aficionados will bang on about pot still and pot still being the ultimate in quality rum. Well, it just goes to show, when you come to people like St Lucia Distillers, you can actually produce phenomenal quality rum off column stills. And that all comes about because with like the Bounty, and you might be thinking, well, hang on, why is the Bounty cheaper than the Admiral Rodney more expensive? Well, the simple thing is it will be going down to aging as well. You've got all those sort of factors in play, but they will use different amounts of plates in the column still to create different rums. Okay, so, you know, plates at different positions will create a more, I won't say neutral spirit, but a less flavorful spirit than plates, kind of like less plates, if you like. So with all those nuances involved, St Lucia Distillers can produce these 3 rums and these 3 brands and make them totally different. Now, case in point, when it comes onto these 2 white rums, let's start off with the Bounty. It's a 40% ABV rum. It is a 2-year-old column still rum that has been aged in ex-bourbon barrels and then charcoal filtered to get it white, clear, whatever you want to call it there. But then we come on to the Chairmans Reserve white rum, which is now 43% ABV. It's a blend of pot and column still rums, and it's been aged for 2 to 3 years, again in ex-bourbon barrels, but again then charcoal filtered to make it white. Now, long-term viewers will know that these rums have featured before the Chairmans Reserve White many, many times on this. Backstory behind that is probably 2022 now. I've completely lost track of time. But I did a kind of a series of videos, a daiquiri blind tasting. Before that, my favourite white rum for a daiquiri. I'm a traditionalist when it comes to daiquiris. I like those clean, clear, crisp, bright daiquiris, white unaged rum sort of vibes that come off there. Before that, I was Cuban Ron Cube. Absolutely adored it. But in the blind tasting, this rumped it. I fell in love with this, and this has been my sort of go-to daiquiri rum ever since. But then the Bounty is also featured because we did do a live stream with Dave Marsland, the UK brand ambassador for sort of St Lucia Distillers, or Chairmans Reserve, if you like. Very, very knowledgeable. So we went through the whole kind of Bounty series and that, but I've never done a side by side. Now, before we dive in, one final piece of housekeeping for this, and this might be pertinent. There's another posh word. I'm bringing out the posh words. It might be pertinent for your journeys going forward. Probably not so much for this series, but St Lucia Distillers is owned by Spiribam. Now, where that becomes relevant is that Spiribam also own two of the big Martinique rums, Clément and Rum JM. Now, what you'll start to see, especially now that rum's coming to the fore and rum's growing, the trade's growing, what you'll start to see is more and more projects where there's overlaps between the distilleries, and that'll be why, because Spiribam own all three of those distilleries. The big first project that's that I've, to my knowledge, that I've seen was this, which I featured over Christmas. This is the Chairmans Reserve Mai Tai in a tin, an RTD, but this is a blend of, I don't know which one it is, but this is a blend of the Chairmans Reserve original rum and then either the Clément or the Rum JM to create this this Mai Tai. So you will start to see a few more projects where, you know, the cane juice from Martinique is being combined with the molasses sort of base rums from SLD. So let's get on to our first test, which is the all-important price comparison. And actually, there isn't too much separating these in the UK. Now, I know that I think these are available in the US. I've seen these in the US, but I don't think they're available in like mass market, all states. I think it's very niche. So, but I have seen certain prices of the Bounty, and I know that'll be a damn sight cheaper than what you pay there. But to start off with, as always, UK price, master of malt, logged out. And that's one thing I haven't said. I have funded the vast majority of the rums in this series. Dave Marsland has sent me a few samples of a couple of the Admiral Rodneys and the 1931. But in all, you know, these rums will be, I have purchased these rums, or I've got a stock of them from before. So there's no paid promotion in that. So anyway, let's get on to this. Bounty, £22.99 from my go-to people at the Master of Malt, which compares to £24.93. So £2, just under £2 difference. And sort of so you can kind of have a rough idea, so you understand that around the world. I do what I always do. US, $29.20 and 31.66. Euros, 26.44 and 28.67. And then Australian dollars, 42, round up, sorry, I should just round these up, 43 Australian dollars and 46 and a half Australian dollars for the Chairman's Reserve there. And then the final one is the Canadian dollars. You are my big audiences. So 38 and a half Canadian dollars for the Bounty, and then nearly $42 for the Chairman's Reserve White. Now, the first thing I'm going to say for all of those that think, you know, you don't get that much flavour, that much aroma off white rums, don't forget these are aged white rums as well. But I haven't even put these anywhere near my nose yet, and you've got luscious sort of fruity, vanilla-y notes already coming off those without even going remotely close to my nostrils. But let's have a little aroma test first off. So on the first smelling, I prefer the Bounty. The Bounty is like really lovely, vibrant, tropical fruits on there, even sort of a coconutty vibe coming off there as well. It's a lovely sort of limey, citrusy, zesty vibe coming off there. But, you know, there is abundant of sort of tropical fruit. Nothing, you know, when rum's been aged in those kind of ex-bourbon barrels, you do expect a little bit of vanilla and caramel and that sort of stuff. Yes, this has been charcoal filtered, but I get none of that. I just totally get this sort of tropical fruit vibe with, like, as I say, those lime zests. And then with the Chairman's Reserve, I'd say it's a similar profile, but more subdued, but then actually does go out into a little bit of sort of vanilla-y, caramelly kind of vibe in there. It is not as fruity as that on the nose, but there is a lot of fruit on there, if that makes sense to you. I think if I'm going to pick one thing out on that, it'd probably be a banana. It reminds me of banana bread. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting there. So for this, the big top note would be coconut, and lime citrus zest. For this, the top note, I'd actually go more subdued fruit, but banana. Definitely sort of a banana vibe. Not Jamaican style. I don't mean funk or anything like that, but I do get this sort of banana-y vibe off there. Right, let's dive in, have a little taste. Wow, that Bounty is super easy to drink. That's actually really delicious. Not as fruity as the nose gives off, as the aroma, but there is plenty of fruit there. There is this vanilla. You get this lovely sort of vanilla roundedness. Again, I'm pretty sure these rums haven't been dosed. I don't think St Lucia Distillers adds sugar to that, but I don't know. Don't hold me to that. I haven't looked. But this has got a lovely mouthfeel to it, a lovely sort of unctuous mouthfeel to it. For 40%, it doesn't punch much higher than 40%, but it's definitely not a weak 40% either. It's not, I've tasted something like a Don Q Cristal or something like that. It's actually 37.5%. Those kind of vibes. You are definitely getting a full-bodied kind of lovely column still rum off that. That's really delicious. That surprised me actually. And then the second tasting, as I do what I always do, kind of swirl it over my tongue to get those, get those aromas going, those taste profiles going. More fruit does come out, more that lime citrus zest really does come out now once you kind of move it over your tongue. That's really delicious. That's going to make a cracking daiquiri. You kind of got there, but it kind of finishes into this vanilla-y caramel. I'm rating that. That's really delicious. Right, a quick bit of water, and then let's dive in for the Chairmans Reserve White. And I love that. That's absolutely delicious. Not even remotely close to tasting how the Bounty does. This, you do get a little bit of banana in there. You get more prevalent of the oak aging is more prevalent. It's kind of there, so you get those kind of vanilla-y vibes. I do get a hint of chocolate and vanilla coming off there, but the big thing for me is that fruit. I do love that sort of tropical fruity vibe. Different to that, I'm going more sort of roasted pineapples, barbecue pineapple. That's kind of what that's reminding me of. I do get a little banana in there as well, but that just all kind of, finishes off nicely with that little bit of vanilla, a little bit of, I'm going chocolate, but it could be mocha after. I'm going to have the second taste where I run it over the mouth. Could turn into mocha. I would say actually it's more bitter chocolate than it is coffee in there. I do get a little bit that you kind of would get from that sort of little bit of barrel aging in there. Kind of, you think Eldorado 3-year-old, you think Plantations 3 stars, they've all been aged. And for those rums, you do get that sort of healthy vanilla-y chocolate, especially Eldorado 3, you get that sort of vanilla chocolate coffee kind of vibe coming off there. So you do kind of expect that. But where this one sort of excels for me over those two is actually those really ripe, fruity, juicy kind of notes in there. Different to the Bounty. The Bounty is a lot lighter. Does this punch at 43? It's definitely a stronger spirit, yes. So on that, yes, I have to say it's definitely punched at 43. It's a stronger spirit than that at 40. Do you know what? This is going to surprise me now, because actually at face value, I would put the Bounty down as probably the better daiquiri rum, because I can just taste it, light, clean, crisp, bright. That's going to make a phenomenal daiquiri. But I know, and I've done this 2 or 3 times now in a blind tasting, I know this makes a superb daiquiri. Absolutely superb. Right, let's get on to some mixers. So the first mixer I'm going to do is obviously the Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Coke. I've got Coke Zero here. Now, this is really interesting because by landslide. So, right, let me put this. So neat, I actually do prefer the Bounty. Neat. I think for my fruity palate and my lighter palate, I actually do prefer that. That has surprised me. Rum and Coke, though, definitely that Chairman's Reserve. Actually, what I don't do with rum and Cokes is a more fruitier, lighter rum. I do like a sort of vanilla-y, chocolatey kind of vibe going. And that has got fruit to it, But it just because it's an extra bit of aging, a bit of pot still in there, this just kind of rounds off and makes a very, very delicious rum and coke. And do you know what? There's just something on it that makes me want to put an orange peel in that instead of a lime, or an orange wedge, I should say, instead of a lime wedge. It's not often I get that with the rum and coke, but for some reason, my little brain's going, oh, that would be really, really nice with orange. That's so kind of one all at the moment. Let's get them for another mixer. Now, I was going to go ginger ale, Schweppes Canada Dry, but I thought I'd throw in a little curveball because I actually think both of those, you know, both of those will work exceptionally well with ginger because it's got a slightly different profile than the Coke. So I thought I'd go fruity. Now, because white rum, for a lot of people, is that sort of pina colada vibe. So I kind of went with a pineapple soda. And this has been a complete role reversal because now I prefer the Bounty. The Bounty is delicious with that. Absolutely delicious. It's light, it's fruity, it's got a lovely rum bite to it. Whereas the Chairmans Reserve is just a little bit too much on it. But don't let that distract from it, because that is still a delicious mixer. Absolutely, we're talking like negligible amounts here. But for me, I just prefer the Bounty. Oh, wow. These have got to be two of the best daiquiris I've made in a while. Oh, this is so good. Different daiquiris. As bonkers as that might sound to a lot of you watching this, you know, if you're just starting out on your rum journey and you're thinking, well, you know, white rum can't taste that different, surely. I promise you it does. And this is why I'm a big, big fan of white. And I keep saying white and aged rum, but I'm just going to call it white rum because, you know, 2-year-old and 2- and 3-year-olds, it's how it is. The Bounty, light, clean, crisp, bright. The only thing I would say about it, it's exactly what you want for that daiquiri in a one-dimensional way, if that makes sense. Now, for me, I kind of need to explain this because I love one-dimensional daiquiris. I don't like, you know, that's why I don't do aged rum daiquiris. I don't like all those different things going off in different directions. I just want lovely rum, clean rum, crisp rum, lime and sugar. That's all I want. And that delivers on so many levels. That is absolutely delicious. I'm going to have to stop before I guzzle it all because I've got a few more videos to film. But the Chairmans Reserve White just gives me something a little bit extra. Now that that lime and that sugar is mixed with that, that becomes way more fruitier. But you do have those little, this is how much my palate has developed over the last year, like really focusing on rum tastings and doing this. You do get those elements of slight vanilla-y, chocolatey coming off the back there. Nothing remotely close to Plantation 3 Stars. Nothing remotely close to El Dorado 3-year-old. It is still a fruity rum. It's still light. It's clean. It's crisp. It's definitely bright. Honestly, two outstanding rums there. And I generally can't sway you in either direction. I didn't think this was going to happen. I thought I was just going to go Chairmans Reserve White. I thought that was, you know, how it is. I don't think I can't not have that Bounty. I love and adore that Bounty. Would that be my rum and coke rum? No. But then I do, if I'm drinking rum and coke, actually I'll probably go a kind of a dry spiced rum, not a really sweet spiced rum. But I would probably go more aged rum than white rum. White rum for me is daiquiris. And those kind of lighter cocktails, like sort of the pina colada and that sort of vibe. For the sake of $22.99 and 24 something, whatever it was, I can't split them. Very different rums, very different taste profiles. But I kind of want both of them.